Alright, so welcome back everybody. So for this video, I'm going to be explaining the event cards from Empires of the Void 2. Now, for the explanation of this video, the Oracles of Xun have graciously volunteered their help to help us explain the events from the game when they are called upon to help us out. Now, usually when I explain cards, I will pick something they all have in common. And in this case, I will pick events that are all from the same planet. But you'll notice right away that we have 5 piles here, and the Tanfu is in 3 different piles. And these 2 piles don't even have anything from Tanfu. Why is that? Why did I do that? Well, it's because I had a new understanding and a new grasp of the situation. So I recently got to play Empires of the Void 2 online against AI, and I got to see how these events all function. I didn't play with every single event, but I understand when they get activated. Some I just didn't understand. Like this icon, I didn't really know what it meant. I looked in the rule book, but it just didn't compute, and it wasn't really being explained anywhere, you know, how these events work and when you use them and all that. So that's why I decided to make this video. Now, so this is why they're in 5 different piles. So let me briefly explain why they are in 5 different piles. And we will be talking about each of the cards planet by planet. But once you understand this setup, then you'll understand why they're in like this, like this setup. So this pile is a pile of cards that function when you take the move and attack action. Maybe it's just moving, or maybe it's just attacking, but it's usually just those 2, and so all of the cards in this pile will function with this action. This one here, there's not very many cards for, but they only function when you take the research and build action. There's a lot of cards in this pile, but they only function when you are taking the card action or diplomacy action. Now, when you do the card action and the diplomacy action, it's not in addition to what event you have out that goes with this. It's a third option. So when you take this action here, you can either do the card action, you can do the diplomacy action, or you can do the event action as a third option. So it's not this and this. It's either one of these or this. I mean, one of these or this. That's what that means. And then you'll notice we have a few cards here. That means that when you take this action, the recruit action, these will go into effect. Now, this pile is a little wonky. These cards don't really go with scavenge at all. But they don't really go with just one of these actions either. And so that's why they're in this pile here. There are some that are really wonky, and so that's why they're here. Some are really easy to understand, and they just don't really necessarily go with anything in particular. So that's why they're in this pile here. So let's get started explaining how all these cards work, starting with Tanfu. And as you'll see, we have Tanfu already out on the table here. So you can see it better now. So we've got Tanfu here, already ready to go. Okay, so let's start with Tanfu. So let's take all of the cards from Tanfu and bring it closer up to the camera so you guys can see, obviously, the cards better. Okay, so Hexite Market. So this is going to be starting with move and attack, so we'll just kind of go in order like that. When you end your movement in orbit of Tanfu, you may pay 1 credit to gain 1 random good. So, you know, once again, Oracles of Xun are going to help us out here. So if this is the event we are playing with, the Hexite Market, and we end our movement in orbit of Tanfu, that's orbit, right? Then we get 1 credit, which is, money, right? We get 1 credit, and or should I say we can pay 1 credit to gain a random good. So we're paying 1 credit, so it's cheap to get a random good. Could be anything, right? Random. Okay, that's what we're doing. So it's going to stay there inactive. It's going to stay inactive for the rest of the game once it goes there. So it doesn't leave. That's how that one works. Let's move on. Okay, so then we have War Games. This is a card action. Okay, so you're going to roll a dice. Okay, all right, so here's a dice. You're going to roll it. Okay, and then you're going to add 1. Okay, you're going to add 1 for every unit on Tanfu. So you're going to add. So let's say you had 3 units on Tanfu. Then you're going to add the number 3 to whatever you rolled. So if you rolled a 5, 5 plus 3 is what, 8? Okay, and then if it's 6 or more, you get 3 credits. And then you also get 2 influence on Tanfu. Okay, so cool. We would get 2 influence on Tanfu. Cool. As well as obviously getting some money. But if we get 1 through 5, we just get 1 influence on Tanfu. So instead of getting 2 influence and obviously some money, we would just get the 1. And then regardless of the case, in this war game, this card is discarded. So this card will not stay in effect forever. Unless nobody interacts with it, of course. Okay, let's move on. Earthquakes. So, an effect is no buildings can be built on Tanfu. So you can't build any buildings on Tanfu while earthquakes is in effect. And you guys can read the flavor text on your own. So we'll skip flavor texts to save time, obviously. And then this will require 2 costs to activate this. Obviously, you're going to have to take the card action and diplomacy to do this. You're also going to need to be either on the planet's surface or in orbit of the planet to activate this. But you can pay 1 unused meadow good to the supply. So a meadow good you haven't used, you can pay it to the supply once you take the card action to do this. And then you will immediately gain 2 victory points, 2 influence here, and you get to discard this card. So once again, Earthquakes is not going to stick around for long, potentially. Okay, then we have the Tribe War. No influence can be placed on Tanfu. So while this tribe card is here on the planet, no influence can be placed here. No more influenced until it's gone, that is, right? So it's a card action, once again, has to be played here, right? Attempt diplomacy to stop the war. If successful, place 1 influence on Tanfu. Also, gain 2 victory points and 1 random good, and discard this card. So basically, activating this means you're taking the diplomacy action, meaning you can discard any number of these power cards here. You usually have, 3, 4 maybe? So any number of these power cards to increase your chances of what your role is, and if you're successful at it, then you get to place an influence on Tanfu, and you also get, obviously, some victory points and a random good. And then the Tribe War is discarded as well. Okay, now this one is weird, a little bit, but it was here in the recruitment spot, if you'll recall. So this is a recruit action. Technically an event that happens during a recruit action. Mind control devices. The effect is any player may recruit Bloodseekers, which is obviously the Tanfoons. Obviously, right? Tanfoons. Any player may recruit these guys, paying the standard cost, which is 6 money. They may recruit even if another player is allied with Tanfu. So if another player is allied with Tanfu, then it don't matter. You can still recruit these guys with this event. And then if they do and are not allied with Tanfu, they lose all their influence here. So what does that mean? Okay, well, this is when we will have some influence involved here. So let's say another player has more influence than you on Tanfu. So let's say they have 2 influence and you have 1 influence. You're purple and your opponent has more influence than you. And the event is mind control devices, obviously. and you decide to recruit. You decide to take the recruit action, and you recruit one of these Tanfoons, even though you're not allied with them, okay? If you do that, then all of the influence that you have on Tanfu is lost because you're not allied with them. So basically, it's allowing you to recruit them, even though you're not allied, but if you do have influence on the planet, then the penalty is you lose your influence as well. That's bad, right? But this doesn't hurt the player who has the most influence. So normally, a player who has the most influence, you know, they will recruit Tanfoons because they have the most influence, and since they do have the most influence, then they wouldn't be affected by this at all because they have the most influence, which would make sense. So they're not going to get penalized for having the most influence because they already are allied. This is just allowing other players to ally with them despite being not allied with them, obviously. And if they happen to have influence on the planet when they do it, then they lose it, all of it. So that's what that means. So, you know, a little bit different, obviously, which is why it was an interesting one, and that's why it goes with the recruit one too, obviously. So that's how, obviously, mind control devices are going to work. And that can potentially stay on the planet for the rest of the game. Potentially stay on it for the rest of the game. So that's how Tanfu works, or should I say the events for Tanfu works. Hopefully we'll get through this faster now that we've kind of gotten started here. There's only 5 events for each planet after all, and some are easier than others to explain. So now you'll notice Measle 3 is next. And so we've got Measle 3 here, here, and here. So we're just going to take these one at a time from their corresponding spots. So here we go. Move and attack. Revitalization efforts. Anytime a player takes control of the Measle 3 surface, they may immediately build a building, even if there's already one on the planet. So if there was already a building on the planet and somebody attacked Measle 3, they'd get to build a building on the planet, which is cool, right away. They may immediately build one building, even if there was already one there. Now, the reason why this isn't in the research and build area, technically it should have been over here, right? Because I should have placed it here because it's multiple actions. But because you are attacking the planet's surface to activate this is why I still kept it in move and attack. You have to attack the planet's surface regardless of who's in control of it, whether it's the Mazrons or one of your opponents, and then you immediately get to build a building on the planet despite the fact that there might already be a building there. So that's how that's going to work. So it encourages you to keep attacking your opponents there because you can just keep building, you know, obviously, buildings there. So that's how that one's going to work. Hopefully that is understandable. Hopefully I explained that one well. Let's move on. Okay, so then we got a bunch here in the card and diplomacy section. Okay, so with this one, once again, I explained that pretty well, so we'll just skip that part. Okay, so here we go. So gain 1 random good and 5 credits. So you're going to get that with the black market trade. Doesn't matter. You're just going to get that, okay? Then you're going to roll a dice. If you get a 4 or more, you lose 1 influence on Measle 3. Ouch. If you have no influence on Measle 3, you lose 1 influence on any other planet. So even if you don't have influence here, you're going to lose influence on another planet that you have influence on anyway, okay? If you have no influence at all, however, if you must have at least 1 influence on the board to perform this action. So you have to have an influence somewhere on the board on at least 1 planet. If you don't, then this is not something you can do. That's how that one works with Measle 3. Okay? Okay, market crash. Allying with Measle 3 is worth -1 victory point instead of the 3 victory points. So normally it would be worth 3 victory points when you score. But if this event is still on Measle 3 when you score, then instead of getting 3 victory points, you lose a victory point. That's the effect. Now, now you're probably going to be thinking, oh boy, I have influence there. I don't, and I have like the most influence there. So you're going to be like, I need to go here to solve this market crash. And you can when you perform, obviously, that action. End the market crash by paying 8 credits to invest in the market. So yes, you're going to have to pay a handsome fee or a hefty fee to invest in the market. But you get a reward at least, right? You'll receive 1 random good, which is nice, and you'll get 2 victory points, which is nice. So you get a couple of things for doing it. So it's not a complete waste of your money, but you'll definitely lose a victory point. So that if you have a vested interest in Measle 3 and this pops up, you're going to want to take care of it. Of course, if somebody else beats you to the punch, it's not certainly going to hurt your feelings too badly. And then, of course, it gets discarded, and you no longer have to worry about that nasty little effect. Okay, next we have the Hack War. All players with any influence on Measle 3 are considered tied. Well, what does that mean? Well, once again, let's use influence to explain it. So let's say my opponent, okay, let's put this here. My opponent for the Hack War, here's Hack War. My opponent has 3 influence, and I have just 1 because I'm Oracles of Zun and my opponent is yellow. Normally that wouldn't be considered a tie, obviously, because that's 3 and 1. But with Hack War in effect, that's considered a tie. That's what it's saying. So as long as you have it. Now, of course, if you have no influence on there, then you're not considered to have a tie with anybody there. It's just whoever happens to have the influence there. That is considered part of the tie. Okay. And then, how do you get rid of this, though? Okay, so attempt to cripple, because you're going to want to get rid of it, because if you have the most influence on it, you certainly don't want to share being tied with anybody, right? So you'll attempt to cripple one of the companies. You're going to roll a dice, and you're going to add 1 to your dice roll per unit you have on Measle 3. If 6 or more, gain 3 victory points and discard this card. Now, you'll notice it doesn't require you to be actually on the planet's surface to attempt this. You still have to do this action, though. But if you want to increase your chances of getting 6 or more, you're going to want to have units on Measle 3. Okay? That means the surface or an orbit. Okay? And then you get to discard this card, but you're getting 3 victory points too. So that's nice. Okay. And then we have 1 more here for Measle 3. This is going to be a long video, I can tell already. Okay, so when a player places an influence on Measle 3, they get 3 credits. Now, the reason why it's in this pile is because you can get influence in many ways. It's true you'll get most of your influence here during doing card actions and diplomacy actions, but you can get influence when you complete a mission, which is a number of things, okay? You can get influence when you complete a delivery, which is technically a move action, okay? That's several different things all at once that you can potentially get influence. And so whenever you get influence, it doesn't matter how you get the influence, whenever you get influence, you get 3 credits. And for each influence, so if a mission says you get 3 influence, then that means you're getting 3, 6, 9 credits. 9 money. That's what it means. Market boom, for sure. Easy to understand, though. Okay, so that's it for Measle 3. So let's move on to M-Rock. Okay, so you'll notice M-Rock is only in these 2 locations here. Move and attack and action card and diplomacy. So let's go ahead and do move and attack first. Deep Fungus. Oh, and so we've got several here, so let's grab all 3 of them. That means there's 2 in this one. So the Deep Fungus is one of the more common events, because if it's your first game, they always recommend that you play with this one first. But let's talk about it anyway. So any group that moves out of M-Rock gains 1 fungus token. Okay, here's a fungus token. All right, so any group that moves, that leaves Emrock, any group that leaves Emrock is going to get one of these. Each time a group with a fungus, every time they move, before they start to move, so each movement, so if they move multiple spots, they're going to have to do this next functionality every single movement, which is deadly. Okay, so before they start to move, they roll a dice, and if it's 4 or more, they destroy one of their units. Normally, when you lose a battle, you don't lose you lose a unit, right? These will kill a unit you have, destroy it, destroy one unit of your choice. So this is dangerous. This is the worst event you could potentially get. And then if the group battles with another group, that group also gains a fungus. So you know what they say? Misery loves company. And that's what that is going to do. And that's how that event works for Emrock. Deep fungus. Worst one there ever was, for sure. Okay, Hunger Outbreak. Once again, this is for obviously move and attack. Place 1 fungal token on each inhabited planet except Emrock. So these fungal tokens are not bad necessarily with this event. Okay? So you're going to place 1 of these on every planet except Emrock that you're playing with. Okay? All right. These represent supplies. So this is a supply right here that can be delivered to Emrock. So using the standard delivery rules. So it's just like a cargo token, basically. So you know how cargo tokens work if you know the standard game. Obviously, you know how they work and function. I can't figure out where I placed them all. Oh, here we go. So the fungal tokens are basically these that you're delivering somewhere. Okay, you pick them up on a planet, and then you deliver these to a planet. That's how these work, right? Well, that's how these will function for this Hunger Outbreak as well. They can be delivered to Emrock. Okay? And then each delivered token earns a player 2 victory points, 1 influence on Emrock, and they get a random good. So they're getting 3 things: victory points, influence, and a random good. Amazing. Awesome, awesome event for sure. Hunger Outbreak, definitely helping out the inhabitants of Emrock. Okay, Bumper Crop. If a player ends their movement on Emrock, they receive a random good. So once again, somebody comes to Emrock and they end their movement somewhere on Emrock, they get a random good. So yeah, random good. Cool. So that's it for that one. Done. Okay, that's not it for Emrock. We still have 2 more in the card action and diplomacy section. Okay. All right, so here we go. So effect, place 5 fungal tokens on this card. So normally, obviously, it's going to be here on the planet. So there's going to be 5 of these on this card for the Hidden Temple Uncovered. All right, and then you'll roll a dice, and you'll add 1 per unit you have on Emrock, obviously, to your dice roll. And then if you get a 5 or more in your roll, you'll gain a fungal token. Okay? The player with the most tokens at the end of the game earns 5 victory points. So you want to get as many of these as you can, because 5 victory points is a lot. And then the person who comes in second place, meaning they have to actually have at least 1 fungal token to come in second place, at least 1, they get 2 victory points. And if tied, both gain. So if you tie for first, you both gain 5. If you tie for second, you both get 2 points. That's how that's going to work. So that's how Hidden Temple Uncovered works. Awesome event. Once again, why couldn't the starting event for newbies be one of those last 2, which are awesome events for sure. Okay, here we go. We have Rare Flora. Once again, card action and diplomacy. You'll have to be on the planet for this one to do this card action, obviously, to do this event for the card action. You'll place 4 fungal tokens on this card for the rare flora. So once again, fungal tokens. And then you can purchase 1 fungal token for 3 money, for 3 credits. And then you get to place an influence on Emrock. So that's nice. And why are you purchasing these fungal tokens, you may ask? Well, fungal tokens can be used as if they were goods and can be used for any type. So now, instead of placing a certain good here to decrease the cost of a building, you could place a fungal token to decrease the cost of a building. You could also put this fungal token on here to pay for a technology, or here, which makes more sense because it's a life form, but it doesn't matter because it can go on any one. It's basically a wild good, which is pretty sweet. Once again, rare flora, pretty cool one for sure. So that's it for Emrock. Emrock is done. We're done explaining Emrock. And let's just bring up Measle 3 real quick so you guys can see that better. So that was Measle 3, and then this was Emrock here. Okay, so that's 3 planets out of the way. Obviously, we still have a lot of planets here. Okay, so next is Corlozon. We have 3 piles here with Corlozon in it. This is for the first one for the research and build, which we've been looking at for a while now. So let's get started with this one. Okay, Lost Refugees. Okay, this is an effect. Players may build on Corlozon while in orbit, even if they do not control the surface. That's cool. And then they get to ignore the building limit. Even cooler. If a player builds here, they immediately gain a victory point and a random good. So lots of cool stuff with Lost Refugees. So you can build on Corlozon, hence Corlozon here, even if you do not control the surface. Well, that's nice. People like doing that. Some people don't like attacking in this game, so that'll make it easier for them to build on Corlozon without actually attacking. They get to ignore the building limit, so you can just keep building buildings, which is nice. And then when you do build a building there, you get a victory point and you get a random good. All good. But then you'll discard this card when the planet has 4 buildings. So it's not an infinite thing, but for sure, it's definitely going to help out the Lost Refugees at least 4 potential times. Pretty cool. Okay, that's it for the research and build for Corlozon. Let's do card action next. We've got 3 here for that one, and that means just 1 for the recruit one. Okay, so Ship Emporium. You're going to place the Vagabond Station in orbit of Corlozon. Let me get that out. I happen to have it right here. So here we go. Let's move that out of the way now that we're done with that. Here's the Vagabond Station. So it's going to go in orbit of the planet. Okay? All right. Now you also have to be obviously on Corlozon to take this card action. Okay? Sell any number of your sloops to the supply and gain 5 credits and a victory point each for each one you sell. So if you sell 2 of your star sloops to Corlozon, then you get 10 money and 2 victory points. Cool, because you can sell any number of your sloops to it. All sloops must be sold on Corlozon, so you must be in the Corlozon region, orbit, or planet to sell a star sloop. So your star sloop is going to have to be, like I said, on the planet's surface or in orbit to sell your star sloop at the Ship Emporium. But that's how that's going to work. So that's cool. Obviously, that's why you have to also be there too, technically. So that's cool. That's how that one works. And obviously, the Vagabond Station is going to be acting as the Ship Emporium. Okay, Ancient Doom Device. All right, so let's move this out of the way for now. The Ancient Doom Device. Place the Doom token on the victory point track. So where's the Doom token at? Oh, here it is. Here's our Doom token. Tiny little thing. But it's going to go here on 0. Okay? Move it one space down each time the active player changes. When it reaches the 5th space, Corlozon is destroyed. So first, here we go. So obviously, every time you are the active player, you're going to have this token here, okay? When everyone has gone, after you have gone, so let's say you take your action and you're the active player, everybody takes their action like normal. Then this will transfer to the next player. When that happens, they become the active player, and that causes the Doom token to go down 1 every time that happens. Then obviously that player will take their action with this, and everyone will follow suit, obviously, or something else, right? And then once again, this will be handed to another active player, changing hands again with this. And so then that will cause this to go down again. And then once it reaches, immediately once it reaches 5, Corlozon is gone. It's destroyed. There's nothing there. Space dust. Everything's gone. All your influence you had on Corlozon, gone. If you controlled the planet, you no longer control the planet because it's gone. You have units on the planet. Well, then you have to move all of your units to obviously a safe location as if you had lost a battle. Okay? All power cards that function with Corlozon, those action cards that function with Corlozon, are obsolete. All of the deliveries that you have to deliver something to Corlozon are no longer possible to deliver. Missions for Corlozon are no longer possible to be done for Corlozon because Corlozon no longer exists. And you're going to have all those lives that were on the planet on your conscience too because you failed to save Corlozon. So that's obviously a big bummer for sure. So as soon as this Doom token shows up, you're going to want to get to Corlozon ASAP. Okay? So, how, of course, do you save Corlozon? So let's explain that. Okay. Obviously, you have to do it when you take the card action or diplomacy, or obviously this. What you're going to do is you're going to attempt to disable the device. You're going to roll a dice, and you're going to add 1 per unit you have on Corlozon, either in orbit or on the surface, okay, to your dice roll. And then if you can get a 6 or more, you get 2 victory points. You get to place 2 influence on Corlozon, and then you discard this card, and obviously this Doom token goes away. That's how you're going to get rid of it. So that's how Ancient Doom device works. So don't let that planet go to waste, for sure. Okay, Mercenary Guild. Once again, you have to be, for this one, you have to be on the planet to do this particular card action or diplomacy for Mercenary Guild. What you're going to do is you're going to recruit 1 of any alien unit, paying the standard cost, even if you're not allied with the associated planet or if another player is allied with them. Now, you're probably wondering, it says recruit 1 of any. Why isn't it over here? It's because you still have to take this action. You're not taking this action. You're taking this action to do this, okay? You're not taking this action to do this. You're taking this action to do this. And that's why it's here. This action is letting you recruit. That's what it's letting you do. And that's why it's on this pile here. Okay, and then, so where was I? So you still have to pay the standard cost when you recruit 1 of any alien with this Mercenary Guild event, okay? And you don't have to be associated with the planet, and another player is allied with them. So if another player is allied with a unit that you want to recruit, it doesn't matter. And then if you do that, you get an influence on Corlozon as well. So that's cool. So that's how Mercenary Guild works. All right, let's move on. Now we have the Orbital Vagabond Station for recruit here. And once again, we're going to need the Vagabond Station here, once again, in orbit of Corlozon. All right. Immediately place the Vagabond Station in orbit. When any player recruits, they may recruit to the Corlozon orbit region. So, basically, let's say I'm not on Corlozon. Okay, nobody is. But this event is in effect on Corlozon, and I take the recruit action, and let's say I recruit a Tanfoon Bloodseeker, I can immediately place him in orbit, as in on that Vagabond station there, instead of where I have my units. That's what that event allows me to do. And that's how the orbital Vagabond station works for this event. Okay, so that's Corlozon done. Another one is done. Obviously, there was definitely at least one event that was pretty bad. I don't know if it's still worse than the Fungo one, but it's definitely bad to obviously have happen. And let's just give you guys another look at it, just in case you didn't see it back there in the background over there. Okay, so the next one is Arzos. That's the next planet. We still have 5 more planets to go. Man, 5 planets, and it's already 35 minutes into this video. So we're gonna have to do it. I'm gonna do a 2-parter here. I'm gonna make 2 videos explaining the cards. So we'll finish up in the next video explaining the cards. Obviously, we'll save the introduction for the first video so we can get straight to the cards. So hopefully you guys have watched part 1 before you watched part 2. All right, see you guys in the next video.